Welcome to this tutorial on how to redirect in NextJs. We are going to redirect in the server side and also see how to redirect on the client side. So I have a basic project created here and I have an admin route created, and I created it the component to be a server side component. So let's start with the server side. So to redirect, we have to simply import redirect, but now you have to notice that there are two sets of redirect here. You just have to make sure that you're using the one from Next Navigation. That is the one you need to use. Then after that, I am going to come here and check for a certain condition. If that condition is fulfilled, I am going to redirect. So the condition I could be checking for in many cases is usually is a user signed in or not. So what I'm going to do is to create a signed in constant and set it to true. So meaning for now a user is signed in. So I'm going to check whether a user is not signed in, and if a user is not signed in, what am I going to do? I'm going to redirect the user from this admin route back to the home page or wherever you want to redirect to, just anywhere. So I'm going to write a conditional statement here that says that is signed in false. So how we can do that is simply by adding exclamation mark right over there. But just in case you need something that is quite obvious, more obvious, so we could use this and say if it is false. This kind of case, I usually like to use the strict equality because it has to do with checking if a user is signed in. So I'm going to use strict equality, but of course it's not compulsory. So, and I'm going to say if a user is not signed in, if it happens to be false, I'm going to redirect. So you got the redirect and put a quote here and specify the route you wanted to redirect to. Let's just say you wanted it to redirect back to the sign-in page. You'll most likely do something like this: alt/sign-in, but but I don't have a sign-out page, so I just want it to redirect back to the home page. Okay, remember it will only perform this redirect if the user is not signed in. But now here it happened that the user is signed in. So I am going to save changes here, and is checking my changes, and then it found out that a user is signed in. Because of that, it didn't redirect. So now let's test this out for false, meaning if a user is actually not signed in. So I'm going to save. Let's see what happens. So I save, and now it redirects the user back. Okay, so let's now take a look at how to do this on the client side. So what I could do is to create a completely different route for this. So over here, I want to create a route that says, so let's create a route that says profile, but my profile, let's call it my profile. And you can only visit my profile if you are signed in. So I'm going to say my dash profile /page.js. So in this way, I'm creating both a folder and a file at the same time. So I have it created right here, my profile, then page.js. So right over here, I could simply copy this stuff we have right here. So just to save time, and now back to this. So I'm going to say that I want this to be a client side component, and I'm going to say export default function, and I'm going to call this let's call it my profile. Mind you, you can as well simply just say page, but I like to keep it this way. And now I'm going to return that, but I'm going to specify here that this is my profile. Okay, great. So now what would I like to do? What I would like to do next is to check if a user is signed in. So here I'm going to create that constant again, const signed in, and for now I'm going to set signed in to true, meaning somebody is signed in. Okay, when trying to do something like this on the client side, it might be more efficient if you allow the component to fully mount before you try to redirect. So, and if you want the component to be fully mounted before you try to do something, then you are going to need the use effect. So what I'm going to do in that case is to import use effect, and right over here I'm going to call on that use effect by saying use effect, and I'm going to initiate here a callback function and an empty dependency array. Okay, so I'm going to keep the dependency array empty. Then right over here I will write a conditional statement that says that if signed in, or if a user is signed in, I should be checking for if the user is not signed in. So in that case I should say false. If a user is not signed in, what do I want to do? What I want to do is to redirect the user out of this place. So here I'm going to say redirect user out. Okay, but now how do we redirect then on the client side? What we must do is to import a NextJs component called use router. But once again, you notice that use router appears to be from two different places. We have this one coming from Next router, we have another one coming from Next navigation. So you need to get hold of the one coming from Next navigation. That is what you need. Then right over here I will have to create an instance of the use router. So I'm going to say const router. So you could choose to call it anything else other than router, but it's often best you just stick with router because most other developers would call it router. And I'm going to say use router and then bracket open close. Then now, since I need to redirect, all I have to do is to call router, this router here. Then I'm going to call a method called push. So whatever you push into router is the place or is the route that the user will be redirected to. So in this case I wanted to redirect the user back to the home page. Now I'm going to save this. Just before I save that, let me keep my browser open, and then I'm also going to visit that route. Mind you, I've never visited this route, so if I try visiting it right now, it's going to take me out of my profile route completely. So I'm going to save, and now I would visit my dash profile. Mind you, it's not going to redirect me. Why? Because a user is signed in, and we are checking for if a user is not signed in, redirect the user. So let's actually see if it's going to allow the user to stay. So I load that, and it takes me to my profile, and there is no redirect. Now let's change this to false, meaning there is no user signed in. So it says here if signed in is equal to false, and right now it is false. So I save changes, and then I visit this route once again, and after the component mounted, it redirected me back to the home page. So this is how to do redirect in NextJS on both the server side and the client side. Thank you for watching.